the Great Compromise. This is the one that is really tricky for people to understand. So when they're rewriting the Constitution, they know they're eventually going to have to make federal laws, but they're not sure exactly how to make those. Does each state get a vote? Does each person get a vote? How are they going to make these laws? So they decide that immediately it should be based on the states because it would be ridiculous to make every person go and vote for every federal law. So then, okay, it just seems logical that every state would get one vote. If you want to make a law against murder, then every state gets one vote, whether that should be a law or not. North Carolina gets a vote, New Jersey gets a vote, South Carolina gets a vote. Well, that seems logical, but people didn't all agree on that. So Virginia, the state of Virginia, had put together a plan, and they said that a state that has more people in it, so if Virginia has 50,000 people in it, then they should get more votes than Rhode Island that only has 1,000 people. Those numbers are not realistic. I'm just throwing numbers out there. So if you think of it like Mooresville Middle School, you have like 60 plus people in your gym class versus 30 people in your, social studies class. So that's kind of what Virginia was saying, mostly because Virginia was a big state. They had a lot of population. So they were being selfish. They thought if they based it on population and they got more votes, then they could kind of run things a little bit better. Well, New Jersey had a different plan. They thought that it should be equal, regardless of population. Every state should get the same amount of votes. And nobody could agree. So Connecticut, the state of Connecticut, at the compromise, decided that that they would that's exactly what they would do, is they would compromise, and they would use both plans. So instead of having one group of people make laws, they would have two groups of people making laws, both that represent the states. The Senate, which is created by the New Jersey plan, and that says New Jersey play, but I'll fix it. The Senate that is created by the New Jersey plan would be equal. So every state in the United States has two senators. We have 50 states. Every state has two senators, no matter what. No matter the population, everyone could leave that state except for two people, and we would have two senators. But the Virginia plan creates the House of Representatives, and that's based on population. So every 10 years, we do what's called a census, and we find out how many people live in each state. And then from there, we determine, okay, so then how many votes does that state get? Which votes equate to people. I know that doesn't make sense, but I'll explain it here in just a second. So I'll show you a couple pictures. So for now, know that it creates a bicameral. So bi means two. Cameral is like a chamber or a house. So the Great Compromise creates a bicameral legislative branch. So the legislative branch that makes laws is divided in two. You have the House of Representatives and the Senate. Together, we call them Congress. Just because if you're in conversation, you don't want to say the House of Representatives and the Senate are talking about a bill. Like, it's just easier to say Congress. Everybody knows what you're talking about. So let's kind of look. So here is a picture. If I can get this picture to be bigger. There we go. So this is like the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., and this is the House of Representatives building. There are 435 House of Representative members in the United States. So 435, that doesn't change. So every time we do a census, North Carolina might get 14 of those 435, or they might get 15, or they might get 10. It depends on population. So if you think states that have bigger populations, like Texas and California and New York, those big states, they have a lot of House of Representatives. So physically in these seats, you would have, North Carolina, North Carolina, North Carolina, North Carolina, California, 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 Arizona, Arizona. And these are actual people that are representing the people that live in their state. Because we don't all want to go to D.C. and take a vote on a state or on a federal law. So these people do it for us, and we elect them into office. So this is the House of Representatives. You really can't know how many each state has unless you just look it up, because it changes every 10 years based on the census. Now, I will show you that so this is the Senate. So this is where the senators meet. Now, this one's really easy. Every state has two senators. Very easy. North Carolina has two. Alabama has two. Florida has two. New York has two. California has two senators. Everybody has the same. So that one's really easy. And you can see, these are actually represented by people as well. And we elect those people into office. So go back to our thing here. So basically, You need to know House of Representatives is made by the Virginia plan, Senate is made by the New Jersey plan. The reason we have two is they kind of check each other. So if a law is proposed in the House of Representatives, if they vote for it, then it goes to the Senate, and the Senate has to vote for it. So it's like an extra step in approving a law for the federal government. Now, the legislative branch does other things too, other than just laws, and we'll talk about that later when we get more into the Constitution. But for now, Virginia plan makes the House of Representatives, which is based on population. The New Jersey plan makes the Senate, which is based on equal. We don't really know how many each state has unless you look it up, and you can see that when you do the Electoral College part. You'll see that map. But every state has 2 senators. And you can look up, like we could probably Google it. If I go to Google and put, let's see, House of Representatives map. And let's see if it'll show it to us. And it says it's from the census, so this looks like it's probably pretty accurate. So like North Carolina has 13 people, that would be in the House of Representatives. But like Texas has 36, California has 53, but it's all based on population, so they're just trying to even it out. You'll see a map similar to this for the Electoral College, but it adds your House of Representatives and your senators together to give you the votes for the president, but we'll talk about that later. So like this just gives you an idea, but like look, Montana only has 1 House of Representative member, so does Wyoming. Like they only have 1 person representing their entire state in that group of people making federal laws, but it's because they don't have a lot of people living in their state, so it makes it fair. On the flip side, Montana has 2 senators, just like everyone else does. So if a law passes through the House of Representatives that might not be fair to Montana, it probably will be caught when it gets to the Senate, and it's a little bit more equal as far as the population is spread out. And I know that gets really, really confusing, and this honestly is the hardest and most difficult thing for students to understand. So I hope that helps, and we'll talk about it more when I get back, but that should help you a lot on those questions.